Who is Aquaman? If you've seen Justice League, you know him as the ludicrously muscular Jason Momoa. If you grew up watching Super Friends, you remember him as the blonde guy in an orange shirt who didn't usually have much to do. If you've encountered internet humor in the past 20 years, you've probably heard that he talks to fish. That's not all, though. He's been a king, a husband, a father, an amputee, and an exile in his decades-long existence. So he's a pretty busy fish guy. Here is the untold truth of Aquaman. Alternate origins. Everybody knows that Aquaman's from Atlantis, but in his first appearance in 1941's More Fun Comics number 73, that wasn't the case at all. His father was a world-famous undersea explorer and researcher. Aquaman's mother died when he was a baby, and his father took him to live under the sea. Using the ancient science of that forgotten civilization, he raised Aquaman to live comfortably under the sea, giving him the ability to breathe water and the name Aquaman. It was only later stories that made Aquaman an Atlantean prince. In the 1940s, he was simply too busy fighting Nazi U-boat captains to have that complex a backstory. Alternate origins. Adventure Comics number 260 established that Aquaman was the son of a lighthouse keeper named Tom Curry and a mysterious woman who came from the sea. On her deathbed, she revealed herself as an exile from Atlantis and that their son, Arthur, had inherited her aquatic powers. Later stories would establish the mysterious woman as the Princess of Atlantis, making Arthur Curry the heir to its throne. In 1989's Aquaman Special number 1, this origin was revised yet again so that Aquaman was born in Atlantis, left to die in the open ocean as an infant, and later adopted by the lighthouse keeper. Arthur being raised by a lighthouse keeper has remained one of the more consistent details of Aquaman's origin stories going back to the beginning, even when later retcons would add in a biological father who was an undersea wizard and other familial weirdness. Aquaman and his octo-pal. Most people remember Aquaman's sidekick as Aqualad, a dark-haired teen in red and blue.
Aquaman, who with his teenage ally, Aqualad, guards and defends all that lives in the seas against the forces of evil.
Aqualad first appeared in 1960, but Aquaman met his first lasting ally years earlier in 1956. In Adventure Comics number 229, Aquaman is inspired by a Canadian Mountie's relationship with his horse, so he holds a contest to see which sea creature should become his sidekick. The winner ends up being an octopus named Topo. Since Aquaman's solo adventures pretty much all take place at sea, an octopus has more to contribute than you might expect. Even after Aqualad came on the scene in Adventure Comics number 269, that clever octopus had stuck around as a member of the supporting cast. Aquaman Uncovered. You've almost certainly seen the cover to The Brave and the Bold number 28, the first appearance of the Justice League of America. Now here's what you might not know. That first Justice League cover where they're fighting Starro is the first time Aquaman ever appeared on a comic book cover. Sure, Aquaman had been around for 19 years, but he'd never had his own comic. Superboy had been the cover feature on Adventure Comics for as long as he and Aquaman had been featured in the book. Before that, Aquaman was overshadowed by Green Arrow in the pages of More Fun Comics. Being a minor hero whose adventures were mostly at sea, Aquaman had never joined the Justice Society of America, DC's first super team. By the time that team was revamped with a new name, however, Aquaman had survived for so long that his veteran status made him a shoo-in for the new team. Making him an active part of the DC universe increased his popularity to the degree that he finally got his own solo comic starting in 1962. Aqua-married. Having his own title in the 1960s gave Aquaman more room to build a complete supporting cast, including an ongoing love interest, something he'd never had before. Mera was introduced in Aquaman number 11 as a beautiful queen from another dimension with the ability to control water. In issue 18, Aquaman finally takes the throne of Atlantis, but learns that he must immediately choose a queen, so he and Mera get married in that same issue. Superhero weddings were largely unheard of when this happened in 1964. The most famous superhero wedding of the 1960s was Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Girl tying the knot in Fantastic Four, but that didn't happen until 1965, a year after the big Aqua wedding. Aquaman established the tropes that would turn up again in Fantastic Four and other wedding stories, like costumed guest stars as guests, and of course, supervillain attacks. Baby on board. Once Aquaman and Queen Mera were married, it was only a matter of time before they produced an heir. Arthur Curry Jr., usually called Aquababy, was born in Aquaman number 23. In the 1960s, Aquaman was breaking new ground just by settling down and starting a family. Of course, he was also one of the only superheroes who ruled his own kingdom. Aquaman had always stood apart from other heroes due to the aquatic nature of his adventures, so it made sense for his stories to evolve along their own path instead of following the usual superhero tropes. But by the 1970s, Aquaman's idyllic undersea life would be coming to an end. In Adventure Comics number 452, Aquaman has a showdown with his greatest villain, Black Manta, who has kidnapped Aquababy and put him in a slow-moving death trap. That baby's a goner unless Aquaman and Aqualad fight to the death.
Black Manta! Now that's not very neighborly.
It's fairly standard supervillain fare, and it seems like Aquaman will get everyone out alive like usual. Unfortunately, it doesn't go that way this time. Aquaman disrupts Black Manta's plans, but it's too late. Arthur Curry Jr. is already gone when they get him out of the suffocating bubble. Ever since Aquaman's son died, his adventures have taken on a darker tone, and his character has had a more brooding attitude. Give him a hand. Aquaman would be reimagined again in the 1990s. He already had grown long hair and a beard, and was soon one hand lighter after a villain shoved him into a pool of carnivorous fish that were conveniently immune to Aquaman's telepathy. He replaced his hand with the hooked end of a harpoon and soon abandoned his famous orange shirt, spending the next few years in a gray armored half shirt and gray and green pants. By 2003, the aesthetic of 90s Arthur Curry already felt tied to that decade, and it was time to move on. A new creative team finally gave the hero a shaven haircut, as well as a new left hand. This hand was made of water, created by the magic of the Lady of the Lake, a magical being better known for helping out a different King Arthur. Back to basics. One of Aquaman's better-known incarnations was as a regular guest star on Batman the Brave and the Bold. Voiced by John DiMaggio, this version of Arthur Curry is bombastic, loud, and brash. He's supremely confident in his abilities as a hero and adventurer, and not shy about sharing his confidence. Unlike other versions of Aquaman who are often moody and bitter, Brave and the Bold's Aquaman is endlessly upbeat and fun.
Good boy. You were magnificent. Yes, big hug.
Interestingly, the Aquaman of the 2017 Justice League film, played by Jason Momoa, has a bit of Brave and the Bold Aquaman to him. He's a more serious character, but he also has the brash confidence and daredevil attitude that made his animated counterpart such a success. Mixing the masculine charisma of Jason Momoa with the classic outsider perspective Aquaman has always had turned out to be a smash success, and the character was a standout in Justice League. We'll have to see if the upcoming solo Aquaman movie will manage to continue the character's watery winning streak.